Alright, hey guys, and welcome to Games I Bought Recently, episode 24. Just excuse me, I've had a really bad cold recently, so don't forgive me if I, do a little sniffle here and there. But I got a bunch of games here. It's going to be random, completely, no order to it. A majority of it I got for Christmas. A lot of my Christmas stuff I buy for myself, so I kind of held it for myself and opened it up on Christmas, which was a lot of fun, a lot of anticipation. So a majority of the stuff here, though, I have not played because I've actually been going back and trying to replay a lot of the games that I bought, past few months earlier in the year to try and piece together my top games of 2010 video, which I hope to have out by the end of January, I'm planning. So, haven't really played too much of this, been playing my older games, and that's just a reminder, if you guys are interested in what I have been playing, just don't forget I do have a podcast, the LG Gamers podcast, where every week I do actually talk about, on our segment on games we've recently been playing, I do talk about all the games I've been playing recently, so if you're interested in knowing what I've been playing, check out the podcast. So let me get started here. Oh, and before that, don't forget I'm on Facebook. I'm going to have a link below to my my page, not my direct profile, because my profile is actually nearing the friend limit already. So all my future updates I'm going to start doing on my actual fan page or whatever they call it. So click the link below, like that, and eventually I will start posting all my updates on there as well. So if you're a friend on my Facebook account already, make sure you like me on my page too. So here we go. I'm going to start with Vectrex games. First, I got a complete copy of Star Trek because before I only had a loose copy, and I am now only 8 games away from having a complete Vectrex collection. I'll tell you the games I need in a second here. A complete copy of Blitz, Space Wars. I got Pole Position, one of the harder games to get on the system, especially complete. Heads Up Soccer. A complete copy of Berserk, because before I just had it loose. Bedlam. And Spinball. So the only 2 games, well, I have 8 games left. Only 2 of them are actually regular Vectrex games, which would be Polar Rescue and Star Castle, which are among 2 of the harder games to get for the system. The other 6 are games that use the light pen and the 3D imager, and those are very rare, extremely rare actually. So those I really don't plan on having anytime soon. So I'm really happy with what I have now. I have a lot of Vectrex games to play. Next I got Final Fantasy XIV, the Collector's Edition for the PC, and I have to say, I am playing this on fairly good settings, near max, so I'm not, my computer can handle it. I'm kind of let down with it though. It's really not addicting. It's not fun yet. It's very different from Final Fantasy XI. The combat system is very macro heavy. Here's the thing though, I'm a huge Final Fantasy XI player, so coming from 11 and going to 14, there's such a big step, there's such a big difference there. Completely different games. For those of you that don't know, Square Enix is going through a really tough time with this right now. They're restructuring the whole development team. They're still offering free months to play because they said the game they know is not up to par with what people were expecting. It's just overall a really bad game and they know it. I've put quite a few hours into it, maybe 8 hours around, and I'm not getting into it. The crafting is not fun, which is a huge part of the game. The combat is it's just, go from point A to point B, quests, the quests constantly keep you going back and forth, talking to characters so far. Feels like a ghost town. Maybe it's the server I'm on Robin Oster, but it just feels empty, there's basically no one around in the main battle areas. The town is only one section where there's people hanging around. Nobody's talking. There's no sense of community in the game. So unfortunately, I'm pretty let down with it. The game does look amazing, by the way. The soundtrack is really good. I'm not going to give up on it yet, by all means. I definitely want to give it another chance. I'm still playing it, so hopefully my opinions will change, so I'm sure I'll talk about that on the podcast. Next, I got Magic Knight Wraith on the Sega Saturn, a complete copy. I think I'm really close now to having every Working Designs game on the Sega Saturn. I know I need Iron Storm, I know I need Dragon Force, and I believe that might be it, so I'm getting pretty close. Still sealed, I picked up the brand new Taiko no Tatsujin 3 game on the Nintendo Wii. Like I said, you guys know I'm a big fan of this series, so got that one. I now actually have all of them but the first one on the DS, in terms of the Wii and the DS versions. I actually picked up a game on the Super Nintendo called Pluck. This is a pretty underrated and unknown platformer, believe it or not. I had no idea this game existed until I heard the boss music from this game, and I was like, wow, that music sounds really good. And I checked out the game, and it's a decent platformer. It kind of reminds me of Rayman because the character, his head, arms, and legs are not attached to his body, or his head might be. But you shoot your arms and your legs as weapons. The levels are actually really unique because they're so short. Like, you can beat some of the levels in about 30 seconds. I actually really like that about it. I just beat the first world, so having fun with this one. Definitely an underrated, not really well-known platformer on the Super Nintendo. Definitely check it out. It's got some great music as well. Pluck. I recently took part in a Secret Santa event, which was actually on my forums, so I gifted somebody, and somebody else gifted me. Didn't know who they were, didn't know what they were sending me, and I got paired with Broland1, who was nice enough to send me these games right here. Wild Arms XF on the PSP, which is sealed. This is a strategy RPG from the Wild Arms series, which I was, a while ago this came out. It's from Xseed, and I'd always been interested in trying that out. I also got Astonish's Story on the PSP. This actually reminds me a lot of Crimson Gem Saga. I don't know if they're related in some way, I'm not sure, but just the art style and the way the game looks. It's another RPG. He sure knows what kind of games I'm into, that's for sure. He said he went back and did his research to make sure I didn't have these games. And the one I'm most interested in getting into playing is Renaissance of Fate. I've heard a lot of great stuff about this game. Unfortunately, it came out at the absolute wrong time, the same day as Final Fantasy 13. Who the heck planned that should be fired from this team, I'm telling you. Like, that was the worst decision they ever made. And because of that, I didn't get around to buying this, but I do have it now. This is an RPG that has one of the craziest looking battle systems I've ever seen. Definitely check out some gameplay on this. I'm looking forward to giving that a try. Now, for the first time ever since I started my YouTube channel, I'm showing off some games for a system that I never showed off any games for yet, or any pickups. And that's the Neo Geo Pocket Color. I recently just felt like getting some Neo Geo Pocket Color games. I do have some, but not a lot. So I looked up what are some of the best games to get, and among them was Match of the Millennium, SNK versus Capcom. Some people have gone as far as to call this the best fighting game they've ever played on any console or anything. So I was like, wow, I have to give this a try. And this is actually the first time I've owned complete copies of Neo Geo games. What's interesting is how they're packaged. Got this cool little cardboard open-up cover here. The manual fits in a sleeve, and the games go right in here. I thought that was really cool. So I checked out some gameplay of this. It looks pretty cool. Another game that I picked up that was supposedly great, even though there's basically a remake or a sequel out on the DS now, is Card Fighters Clash SNK versus Capcom. So I got the Capcom version. Same thing with this. Heard this is a really great card battle game. I'm looking forward to trying that out. And this one, there's very little information of this one online. Not really many gameplay videos at all. Not many people own this game because it's very, very rare. It was only released in the UK and Japan. There was no release in the US. And that is Evolution Eternal Dungeons. This is, from what I know, really, it could be wrong on this, the only traditional turn-based RPG that was released in English language on the Neo Geo Pocket Color. There might be one in Japan. I'm not sure on that because I'm not going to really buy many import games. But I'm looking forward to trying this out. This is basically a remake, or not a remake, it's a downsized version of the Evolution game from Dreamcast. So, from what I believe, same story, same characters, just made for the Neo Geo Pocket Color. This edition, though, is in a hard plastic clamshell case. I heard this game is okay, it gets pretty repetitive, but I was actually really interested in trying this out, especially an RPG on the Neo Geo Pocket Color. Next up is something really awesome for me to own. It's a one-of-a-kind, and that is a Japanese copy of Shadow of the Colossus, but this is not any old copy of Shadow of the Colossus. This is awesome because it is signed by the creator of Ekko and Shadow of the Colossus, Fumito Ueda. You can see the signature right there, and it is dated April 27th, 2010, right up here. Now, this also went to a good cause because what I spent on this went to Child's Play. So here's the letter I got. Dear Pete, on the behalf of Umlaut, we'd like to thank you for your generous donation of blank. You are amazing. We love you. Enclosed, please find your copy of Shadow of the Colossus signed by Fumito Ueda. Take good care of it. Your donation will go to Benefit Umlaut, a non-profit, non-stock corporation of the state of California under the revenue blah 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 blah. Sincerely, the co-founders of Umlaut, Chris Kohler, John Segerson, and Joe Marquette, or Markert. Now, Chris Kohler, I thought this was really cool. He's one of the guys that used to... He was a guest a lot on the podcast Retronauts, and he's part of like the One Up Network or something like that. So I've actually heard this guy before, so that was really cool that he was involved in this. And you can see here's the letter they sent me. So this is definitely an official thing. I talked to him how he got the signature. It was from Chris himself, and he said that he's a good friend of Fumito Ueda, and that he sometimes goes into Japan and has dinner with this guy. And the way he got to know him, because I wanted to know the history behind this piece, was that when Ekko first came out, he approached him during, I believe, Tokyo Game Show or something like that, and he said, hey, I'm really, Ekko looks great. And he got into a conversation with him about Ekko. And at the time, this is when no one really knew about Ekko. So, I'm sure Fumito was like really flattered by that, this guy was talking about his game with him and everything. So, they got to be good friends, and recently on one of his trips down to Japan, he got a signed copy, and now I own it. This is an amazing piece. I'm so happy to have this in my collection. And going off of the signed game theme, I also have another game here, which I already did own, but I thought that when I saw this, it was a great game that I did play this year. And that is Ratchet Clank, A Crack in Time, which is signed. Nope, not just this little signature here. I've still got to do my research and find out, who's who on here. But it is signed. The inside flap, or the inside of the cover, is signed by the entire development team of Insomniac Games. Check that out. That worked on a Ratchet & Clank. Ratchet & Clank, A Crack in Time. So this, I definitely want to get a frame for or something, display this properly. But I just thought that was really cool. It really wasn't even that expensive. It wasn't that bad. I was pretty surprised. So, there we go. That's pretty cool. Alright, and I recently got a RPG on the PlayStation 2. This is a game that I've wanted for a really, really long time now. I've played the previous two in the series, and unfortunately this is the last one that's came out, and the series seems to be dead. And that's Shadow Hearts from the New World on the PlayStation 2. This is a really, really wacky game. It's so funny because the first in the series, the original Shadow Hearts, was so dark and horror-like. The second one still had that dark tone to it, but they added in a lot of comedy. This is like over-the-top silliness, but it's still a great game. It's got an excellent combat engine. If you guys watched my top 30 PS2 games recently, you would see that Shadow Hearts, the original, was one of the top games that I had. And the combat system involves a circle where a line goes around, and you have to stop this line at specific points to get the best combo and the best damage in the game. Really, really unique, really cool. I love the characters in this. The story and the characters just totally make this game. Check it out if you haven't already, if you're a fan of RPGs. This is definitely not one to miss, and I also got the strategy guide to go along with it. Next up, I got 3 Game Boy Advance games that I've been meaning to get for a long time, and you guys might be surprised that I've never played any of these before, and that's Castlevania Circle of the Moon, Castlevania Aria of Sorrow, and Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance on the Game Boy Advance. These are all complete copies, and I'm really looking forward to giving these a try, because really, it was the DS Castlevania games that really got me back into the Castlevania series, so I'm really excited to give these a try. It's going to be like playing, even though these were released years ago, it's going to be like I'm playing a brand new Castlevania game for the first time, so looking forward to giving those a try. Also, I got Super Stardust on a system you guys may not even know that I own because I've never mentioned it before. I did pick it up a while ago, and that's on the Amiga CD32. Now, some of you might say, hey, that sounds pretty familiar, Super Stardust. Well, that's because the sequel, Super Stardust HD, came out on the PlayStation Network as an exclusive, I believe. Now, this is the original, which I could be wrong, but I believe it was only available on the Amiga CD32. So, maybe sometime I'll hook it up on my Commodore monitor I got behind me here. Check out some gameplay, maybe show you guys. I'm not sure. Not sure how easy it'll be to film off that TV, because the Amiga CD32 it's a PAL system. It has to be hooked up to a PAL TV unless you want the colors to be black and white. So, definitely happy to have this. That's one of the main reasons I picked up the CD32. I also got Landstalker on the Sega Genesis, because recently I was talking to the Happy Console Gamer, and he was telling me about this game. And just made me want to own a copy again. I had it a long, long time ago. So long ago I can barely even remember playing the game. So wanted to get that again. Next up, I think I only got, 2 games left here. Epic Mickey on the Wii. Any of you that just attended my recent live stream of this game, you would know I'm pretty mixed on this. First of all, the good parts would be the graphics and the environments look great. It didn't quite live up to the concept art, but it's pretty good. The combat is simplistic, but it gets the job done somewhat. Basically, you use your paintbrush to paint and thin stuff in the world, so you can basically blot out certain objects in the world of Epic Mickey, including the enemies, and you can paint in objects that are missing, and you can use this to turn enemies onto your side and they fight for you. I thought that was a really cool mechanic. Unfortunately, a weaker part of the combat is the waggle controls, because there's a spin attack just like in Super Mario Galaxy, but unfortunately it's not quite as responsive, I think, in Epic Mickey. It's kind of, it's just not that great. You can also jump on enemies' heads. Another problem is definitely the biggest part of the problem of this game for me right now is the camera. You do have manual control using the D-pad, but I've never been a fan of Wii games that basically require you to constantly change the camera around with the D-pad because the placement is just not optimal. And the audio camera does not do a good job of directing itself for you. It's really bad. And another big problem is, it seems like a missed opportunity, but the world is really segmented. You're constantly being told to do this quest, and then this quest, and then this quest, and the worlds are broken up by those side-scrolling segments, and it's like the worlds, they're not wide and expansive. They're really broken up into basically individual hub worlds, and it just loses the sense of adventure, really, for me. I don't know, it's really strange right now for me with this game. I'm really mixed on it. I really need some more time to play it. I'm only about 3 tops hours into it. The story's pretty interesting. It's like a love note to Disney fans, old school Mickey fans. Unfortunately, I was never really a big Mickey Mouse fan, so maybe I'm losing out on something here. But yeah, I definitely need more time with this one. It has redeeming qualities, but it has a lot of problems as well. And lastly, Golden Sun Dark Dawn. I have to say I'm liking this a bit more than I thought I would be. I'm maybe about an hour and a half in. I'm still basically just getting past the tutorial part of the game. I got my 3 main party members right now. I still got 1 more to get. From what I've heard, unfortunately, this game is overly easy. I don't like my RPGs to be too easy to the point where it's a cakewalk. I do like to grind a little bit. However, so far I've been pleasantly surprised. The puzzles aren't too overwhelming. They're not too complex. The battles look great. The music, as usual, is really good. The story is pretty gripping because they do a great job of recapping the first 2 games. I completely finished the first one. The second one I never got around to beating. So they did a pretty good job of letting me know what happened and what went on. They have a great system to click on different terms in the game to let you know what that term or person meant in the past series, so you get caught up. Gameplay-wise, it's very basic, very standard. If you're a fan of turn-based RPGs, this would be a great game to pick up from what I've played so far. The visuals are amazing. The summons, from what I've seen so far, look phenomenal, just like they did in the Game Boy Advance games. I'm not sure if this series really lost its luster, because the big appeal for it back on the Game Boy Advance were that, for me at least, the graphics looked so good. And there really weren't that many turn-based RPGs on the Game Boy Advance back then, but now that we've had so many on the DS in these past years, Golden Sun might have lost some of its charm that it had back then, but it's still a great game from what I've played. Like I said, I'll be playing more of this, so for more updates, check out the Old Gen Gamers podcast. And that's it from what I'm going to show from here, guys. I did get some other stuff, but it's kind of more bulkier, things that I can show off in individual videos, so I'll be showing those off pretty soon, so stay tuned. Hope you all had a great holiday, Merry Christmas, hope you all had a good New Year as well. And this is the first video I'm doing for 2011, so got some great stuff planned for you guys. Thanks for watching.